evening, and thank you for being here. I'm going to use the microphone. First of all, there's a couple people I want to introduce. We have two board members that joined us this evening, so I want to thank them for being here, Tina Lanio and Rich Flanagan. Thanks. And then I'm honored to introduce the leadership team. We have Tina Stavro, principal of Lincoln Middle School, Dr. Christian Kopta, principal of Washington School, Mrs. Melissa Kartzimus, principal of Kennedy School. I have Mr. Brian Amsler on video. Ms. Donna Maglione, of course, is at the children's table.
Make sure they're quiet.
You're coloring. I'm really excited to introduce our teacher leaders that led this initiative. We have Ms. April Caputer, who is the District 81 Curriculum Coordinator and LMS Facilitator. Tiffany Schultz is the LMS Facilitator. Krista Henkel from Kennedy School, Curriculum Facilitator. Jeannie Meyer, Washington School, and Nicole Culberson, Kennedy School. So the work we've accomplished in District 81 over the last 2 years fills me with pride. When I first became superintendent, I learned rather quickly that we were in 3 separate schools. My vision and the vision of the board at that time was to bring 3 schools together under the umbrella of 1 district. And our work around Common Core alignment has really solidified that vision. The ladies really had a lot of time to work together. We had teachers working across curriculum, across our schools, that prompted a lot of dialogue and conversation about teaching and learning and the segue from one school to the next. So due to the thoughtful dedication of our teachers and our administrators and the support of our Board of Education, I'm proud to say that we are fully implementing the National Common Core Standards in District 81, and we are 2 years ahead of that state mandate because we were supposed to be full implementation by 2015. I'm sure you know that once you realign your curriculum, then you have to realign your assessments because your assessments have to match your curriculum. You can't assess your kids on something that you're not teaching. So the natural segue then, once your curriculum is aligned, is to align your assessments. It was always the desire of this leadership team to create a reporting tool that not only prepares our students for what's in front of them, but for what lies ahead. I'm confident that you'll agree that the changes reflected in the new District 81 report card, which you're going to learn about this evening, will not only prepare your students for entering Leiden, but most importantly, will provide you, their parents, with a tool that will effectively communicate to you your child's understanding, the National Common Core curriculum, and the opportunities for improvement. So, without further ado, I'm going to turn this over to Dr. Kopta.
Well, a few years ago, the Board of Education provided us with the opportunity to attend the National Conference on Common Core Standards and Assessment in the spring of 2012. Teacher leaders and administrators from Kennedy, Washington, and Lincoln Middle School attended large group and breakout sessions on the Common Core Standards and how to successfully implement them in our schools. We took this information back to District 81 and began to plan our next steps for the Common Core. This conference brought us together as a district and unified our vision for the implementation of the Common Core Standards. As you will see tonight, this initiative was led by the administrators and brought into fruition by our teachers, our teacher leaders. This collaboration has resulted in a more rigorous curriculum that involved the input of all teachers in our district. And Ms. Kartzimus is going to speak about how we did that.
Thanks, Erin. As you know, District 81 is a forward-thinking district when it comes to technology and collaboration. So through the use of Google Apps for Education, alignment of the Common Core state standards has truly been a collaborative effort district-wide. As many of the steps towards alignment, you'll hear the curriculum facilitators talk about this evening, were completed using Google Docs. So pacing guides, assessment plans, resources, everything is being shared among staff members via our district's curriculum website, which is housed on Google. Teachers are working together, they're discussing curriculum and assessment at high levels, and they're maintaining their curriculum resources to provide common experiences for all of our children. So now I'm very honored to present our curriculum facilitators who are going to begin tonight's presentation.
Good evening. As we go through our presentation tonight, we have 3 goals. The first is introduction to what the Common Core state standards are. We're going to show you the updated standards-based report card that aligns to those standards. And then we're going to give you some information about the Parcc Assessment. As we present tonight, if you have any questions or comments about the presentation, we are going to ask that you write those questions down on these pieces of paper that are at your tables, and we will make sure to respond to you in writing via email, and then the answers will also be on the district website. The Common Core State Standards was an initiative led by the Council of Chief State School Officers and the National Governors Association. The goal of the Common Core is to provide a single set of clear and consistent educational standards in the areas of math and English language arts so that all states can share and voluntarily adopt these standards. As of now, a total of 45 states, the District of Columbia, 4 territories, and the Department of Defense Education Activity have adopted the Common Core state standards. Until now, every state had its own set of standards and different expectations of student achievement and performance. The Common Core standards will help ensure that all students are receiving a high-quality education consistently from school to school and state to state. So there are a few key principles that the Common Core was developed around. The first is solid evidence. So the Common Core Committee really looked at what students need to know, what evidence they need to know at the end of each grade level. It was also founded around solid focus. So the idea is that we're teaching much less, but at a deeper level. And that's really the key to the Common Core. The Common Core is a set of standards. It's not a curriculum. So it still allows for teacher flexibility and teacher judgment. And the standards are preparing students for the goal of being college and career ready. You'll hear that a lot in tonight's presentation. And what that means if they're college and career ready is that the students will have a 75% chance of earning a passing grade in a college accredited course. So the standards are common because they're collaborative among teachers and states, and it's a core set of standards that allows for a more focused curriculum. The standards were designed to be grade level specific. When the end of the grade level expectations are defined and teachers commit to those standards, we will have a guaranteed and viable curriculum. The skills build upon each other from year to year, and with this progression, by the time the students graduate, they will be college and career ready. So now we're going to dig a little bit deeper into the standards. I'm going to start with the focus on ELA. And when I say ELA, that means English Language Arts. That's your reading, your writing, your speaking, and your listening. So the students will be reading as much nonfiction text as they will fiction texts. They will learn about the world by reading and reading more challenging material closely. The students will discuss what they have read using evidence from text. And they will also use evidence when writing about nonfiction texts. And the final focus is that they will be increasing their academic vocabulary. The math focus includes 3 main things. The first is the focus. This significantly narrows the scope of content and deepens how much time and energy is spent in the math classroom. The focus is deeply on what is emphasized in the standards, so that the students gain a strong math foundation. The next is coherence, carefully connecting the learning within and across grade levels so that all students can build a new understanding in the foundation built in the previous years and grade levels. And the last is rigor, and rigor includes 3 different parts: conceptual understanding, fluency, and application. And what this means, conceptual understanding, it's not just sufficient to know the procedure, but it is important for the students to be able to explain their procedures and why are they doing them. The second is fluency. It is not solely about memorization, but about a deeper understanding. And application. Teachers provide students with the opportunity to apply what is taught in the classrooms in real-world situations. The students will also be given the ability to apply these concepts and procedures above and beyond what is explicitly taught in the classroom. to talk a little bit about is the things our district has done so far, and the things that we are proud to have accomplished as we are working towards the Common Core State Standards alignment. The first one is that we powered and aligned the Common Core State Standards from kindergarten through 8th grade. And when we powered the standards, we worked as grade levels to identify about 1/3 of the standards that we were going to place a very heavy emphasis on in the classroom. Then we met as a district to discuss these standards in further detail. Next step that we took was to create I can statements, what you will be seeing on the report card. And the I can statement is where we took the standards and we rewrote them in a more child-friendly language so that students have a better understanding of the expectations at their grade level. The next step we took is that we analyzed the relationship between the Common Core State Standards and standards-based grading. We used some research done by Robert Marzano to identify the different levels of understanding within our standards, and we used that to make some comparisons to the standard-based grading practices we've been using. Our district, District 81, has been using standards-based grading for the past decade. The resources here are those that have been written regarding standards-based grading, and we have used throughout the past 10 years to better help us develop quality assessments and communicate our assessment practices. This I'll read for you. This comes from a foundation called the Leadership and Learning Center, and it quotes regarding standards-based grading. By comparing one child's performance to a clear standard, parents, children, and teachers all know precisely what is expected. Every time a student attempts a task, the performance is compared to the standard, not other children's performances. The most important advantages for children and families are fairness, clarity, and improved learning. Standard-based teaching, learning, and assessment empowers parents and students because it encourages teachers to be very explicit about what a student needs to learn in order to achieve a high level of understanding. Standard-based grading also it also helps teachers and parents and students because it helps teachers identify and celebrate what students have grown to understand and also the areas where they may have gaps in their learning. So it turns maybe at the old mantra of just saying that a student needs to study harder, but teachers are able to communicate with parents and students the areas that they are doing very well. For example, they've grasped the understanding of subtraction, but the next area that they need to work on may be multiplication. Standards-based grading also requires that teachers become excellent collaborators because they have to have conversations within their grade level and across the grade level about conversations about what students need to do to demonstrate mastery of a standard. The report card that you are seeing here is what may be considered a typical report card, or a traditional report card. And as you will see that this report card, it lists the course, the grade that a student is receiving, and some comments. This traditional report card does not share with parents exactly what the student can do well or what the student may need to work on. At the bottom, you'll see where it says 8th ELA, which is again English Language Arts. The student in this area is receiving a C with the comment that they need improvement. However, the report card does not communicate to parents specifically what areas they need to show improvement or how the student could be, what areas the student should be working on to demonstrate improvement. The one that you see here is a standard-based report card. And in a standards-based report card, within the area of math, the back screen does show that within the area of 3rd grade math, there are different chunks of learning. So students may be receiving a grade in the area, foundations and fractions, multiplication and division. So it chunks math into different areas. Additionally, underneath each area, it lists the I can statements. The notations next to each I can statement signify whether or not a student has mastered that standard. And in that way, parents and students are aware of the learning that has been achieved. The chart that you see here compares standards-based grading with traditional grading, and this chart is also in the pamphlet that you have with you at your table. Standards-based grading, one of the key differences between the two is that in standards-based grading, the focus is on what is being learned by the student. In a traditional grading system, the focus is more on what is being taught by the teacher. Secondly, in a standards-based grading, students are receiving a culmination, or the grade is a culmination of data over a period of time. Where in a traditional grading system, the final grade is often given where it has been an average score of the grades from the beginning of the grading period to the end. A standards-based grading is showing the progression of learning from the beginning to the end. In standards-based grading, each student is given a grade within a topic within each subject area. So in the slide before, under math, they were given a grade possibly for area, multiplication and division, fractions, just like you can see there. Where in a traditional grading system, students are just given an overall grade for each subject area. In standard-based grading, the report card reflects detailed information about what the students know and are expected to be able to do at that grade level. In a traditional grading system, there's little or no information, specific information, about what is the expectation at that grade level. In standard-based grading, we're using performance descriptors or grade marks that show a continuum of learning and how students have mastered it over a period of time. In the traditional system, it focuses on letter grades, which are often an average score of the learning that's occurred during that time period.
As District 81 continues on our journey to full Common Core alignment, we also got organized using Robert Marzano's organization tools. We took our powered standards and grouped them into overarching topics so the standards are easier to grade and to teach. Each school is currently putting their blood, sweat, and tears into designing various assessments across the curriculum that align to our measurement topics, which are directly connected to our standards-based grading system. We use the powered standards across the student to assess the student knowledge. They are organized into measurement topics, which are categories of knowledge or skills that extend across the grade levels. For example, in ELA, themes and central ideas. The second standard at every grade level in both reading for literature and reading informational texts addresses central themes and ideas. That standard makes up the themes and central ideas measurement topic. In math, shapes. Every grade level except for 6th and 8th grade have standards that address shapes. Therefore, those standards are grouped together under the topic of shapes. The scales allow teachers to see the progression of knowledge from one grade to the next. In order to determine what the target knowledge and skills we want our students to know and learn are, we used the Common Core State Standards and broke them down into smaller chunks called measurement topics, and then even smaller chunks into I-CAN statements, which state what the student will be able to do once they have mastered the standard. How do we begin to assess the measurement topics with standards-based grading? We use proficiency scales based on the proficiency descriptors. Above you can see, if you also look in your packet, this is in your packet, we have changed our grade marks from E, M, M, A, I, P, A, W to 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Using numbers to represent the grade descriptors makes the progression of grade marks more clear. The order of 4, 3, 2, 1, 0 makes it simple to see which marks represent the various levels of understanding and to determine which level of understanding comes next. In order to interpret the letter marks of E, M, MA, IP, and AW, you needed to see the descriptors to determine which letter represented the levels of understanding. So we simply replaced the letters with the corresponding numbers. At Lincoln, Lincoln's the only one that uses 0, and that is to replace the academic warning. For the grade marks, 4 indicates that the student demonstrates advanced knowledge and skills of the learning standard. 3 indicates a student masters the knowledge and skills of the learning standard that were explicitly taught in the classroom. A level 2 indicates a student demonstrates foundational knowledge and skills of the learning standard that were explicitly taught in the classroom. Level 1 indicates a student is progressing towards understanding the learning standard and requires guidance and support. A 0 is only used by Lincoln School, and it indicates that the student is not providing any evidence to assess the learning standard. The next slide shows a concrete example of something you can all relate to, mirroring our progression for the classroom. For example, we wanted to teach children how to clean his or her room. We would start with the target knowledge and skills we'd like all children to be able to know and perform, which represents the level 3 shown on this proficiency scale. Our I can statements included: I can vacuum or sweep my bedroom floor, I can dust my furniture, I can keep the floor empty of items that don't belong on the floor, example, clothes, books, or papers, and I can put away my laundry in the correct location. To enable students to know and to be able to do the target I can statements, we thought of the foundational knowledge and skills that are required to be able to complete those level 3 skills, and we placed those in the level 2 section of the proficiency scale. So I can operate a vacuum or broom or dustpan. I can gather proper equipment, a rag or cleaner for dusting. I can identify what doesn't belong on the floor of my bedroom. I can identify where various categories of clothing should be stored in my bedroom. Then we look at the level 4, complex learning standards, which require the child to make connections between things taught in the target area, which is a level 3, and beyond. For example, I can create a schedule to maintain the cleanliness of my bedroom. I can develop and follow a plan to organize and keep organized my belongings in my bedroom, including books, games, and toys. We would then create assessments that would provide opportunities for the child to demonstrate all the levels of the proficiency scale. We'd ask level 2 questions, like what equipment do you need for dusting? Demonstrate how you turn on the vacuum cleaner and change the bag. Where do you put away your jeans? Circle which items belong on the floor of your bedroom: clothes, furniture, garbage can, papers, pencils. We'd ask level 3 questions. Draw a picture of your bedroom when it is unorganized, and draw a picture when it is organized. Then compare and contrast the 2 pictures. Demonstrate that what your drawers and or closets have the proper categories of clothing contained in them. We'd ask level 4 questions, like create a schedule to maintain the cleanliness of your room. Be sure to provide details on how often all cleaning tasks will be performed, as well as plan on how you will make sure your room is kept organized. If we were to generate a report card for this measurement topic, all of the level 3 I can statements would appear below the cleaning bedroom measurement topic. Through the use of the proficiency skills, teachers clearly have identified what students need to know and be able to do, and can design appropriate assessments around these topics. Plus, every teacher is using the same criteria to give a grade mark to a student, and the final grade in the report card is based on an agreed upon standard and assessment expectations for that measurement topic at that grade level. Here is an example of a 3rd grade proficiency scale on multiplication and division. For the grade mark 4, opportunities to demonstrate advanced knowledge and skills that were not explicitly taught in the classroom. Here, the students are given the ability to apply concepts and procedures above and beyond what was explicitly taught in the classroom. A level 3, opportunity is to demonstrate mastery of the knowledge and skill that were taught explicitly in the classroom. These are the targeted I can statements. Level 2 opportunities to demonstrate the foundational knowledge and skills that were taught explicitly in the classroom. These are the needed stepping stones to take the targeted grade level. These are the needed stepping stones to get to the targeted grade level knowledge and skills. And a 1, the student is in progress of gaining the foundational knowledge. On your tables, inside the pamphlet, this is a sample of a 3rd grade assessment. The 3rd grade team of teachers designed the assessment using the multiplication and division proficiency scale just displayed. When we created the assessment, we designed the questions 1, 2, and 3 to measure the foundational knowledge of multiplication and division. Questions 4, 5, and 6 were used to measure the target I can statements for multiplication and division. Lastly, question 7 measured advanced knowledge and skills of multiplication and division that weren't explicitly taught to our kiddos. There is a score sheet at the end of the assessment which indicates the grade received by this sample student. The grade earned was a 2 because he or she was able to accurately answer the foundational questions 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, and 3, but was not able to accurately answer questions 4, 5, and 6, which represented the targeted concepts taught in class, nor was he or she able to answer question 7, which was the level 4. So the student earned a grade mark of 2 on this assessment. You will later see how the score the sample student received is reflected on the report card.
All right, so what Krista was just talking about was the assessment, and then this is how it would be reflected on the report card.
If you look up here, you'll see that each subject is listed. So on the top, it says 3rd grade language arts, and then under that is 3rd grade math, and you can continue to see music and the other subjects. So under each subject, you'll see the measurement topic. So we have language arts, and then it says spelling, context clues, word origins, and roots. So those are all the measurement topics, like cleaning your room was a measurement topic. Under each measurement topic are the I can statements. This is what Jeannie was talking about, the things that students should be able to do at that measurement topic. The grade marks, there will be an overall grade for each measurement topic. So for example, in multiplication and division, the example that's in front of you, this student earned the 2 level. So under multiplication and division, there's a 2. And then it tells you specifically what they can do. This student, it says I can determine when to multiply and divide in a word problem. So they got a plus, which indicates they can do that. The next one, it says I can determine the unknown whole numbers in a multiplication or division problem. According to this assessment, the student was not able to perform that, so they earned a minus mark there. The last 2, I can explain the relationship between multiplication and division, and I can multiply 1-digit whole numbers. Those 2 have not yet been assessed, because as Nikki talked about, it is a progression of skills, so those would be shaded on the report card. So they were not assessed that trimester. So this is what the kindergarten through 5th grade, so Kennedy and Washington, this is what the report card would look like for you. At Lincoln, we're following the exact same procedures, there's just one minor difference. We will still have all the subjects listed. There will be measurement topics and I can statements indicating with a plus what they can do, a minus what they still need to work on. The only difference is they're also going to receive an overall grade in each subject area. So for English language arts, they would have an overall grade. For math, they would have an overall grade, meaning the number 43210. This will help, the way we're going to get that grade is to calculate all the measurement topics in that subject and then place the overall grade number. This will help our middle school students transition into the system that they'll be using at Lane. So besides the assessment that the teachers will be giving, the students will also be receiving assessments from the state, and the current state assessment is ISAT. We will be transitioning into the Parcc Assessment. The change will occur in the 2014-2015 school year. So this year our students will still take the ISAT test with the new cut scores, and then next year we'll take the Parcc Assessment. So what exactly is Parcc? Parcc stands for the Partnership for Assessment of Readiness for College and Careers. And it's the test that's replacing the ISAT test. Parcc is an alliance of 19 different states, plus DC and the US Virgin Islands. Kentucky and Pennsylvania are also participating states, which means they helped create the assessments, but they have not committed yet to taking it. And these states altogether educate nearly 25 million students. What Parcc has done is they are developing common, high-quality math and English language arts tests for grades 3 through 11. The test will be computer-based, linked to what students need to know for college and careers, and they'll be ready for the 2014-2015 school years.
So one of the reasons for the new assessments after the Common Core standards were developed, Parcc was one of the consortiums that were generated that came together and created assessments to measure the Common Core standards. And in developing these tests, they were looking at the fact that 81% of today's jobs required a college education or some form of career training. They also were looking at some statistics and some data that indicated when students were graduating from high school, a third of those students that did enter college were entering coursework that was non-credit bearing. They were not prepared for credit coursework. So the design of the new assessments is to increase the rigor in both ELA and mathematics to help prepare and measure if students are in fact ready to enter college or enter the career. In ELA, the things that will be measured in these Parcc assessments are in reading sufficiently complex text independently, being able to write effectively to sources, and build and present knowledge through research. In math, problem solving within context and involving communication with one another and working together and solving those mathematical problems, being able to reason mathematically, being able to model real mathematical problems and having fluency with mathematics, and that means in third grade through sixth grade, all of these tests will not students will not have access to a calculator. So fluency means from your mind, you're fluent. The priorities. When Parcc came together and developed these assessments, they developed a set of priorities to guide their development. They wanted to make sure their test was going to in fact measure college and career readiness, and they came with the idea that their test was going to be able to, if you got a college determination, you would have a 75% chance of getting a passing grade in a college credit-bearing course. That's the goal of the Parcc assessments. They are directly connected to the Common Core state standards. They will assess the full range of student ability from the lowest performing student to the highest performing student at each grade level. The data will be given to us during the school year. Right now with ISAT, students take ISAT in March. The teachers don't get feedback from the state of Illinois until the beginning of the next school year. So as teachers, we cannot use that information in any way to help promote the instructional advancement of the students that we currently have. Parcc assessments are designed to give us feedback during the school year, which will be nice for us. And they are 21st century technology based. They will be all done on computers, which allows for some very unique ways of designing and asking questions of students. And because we have 19 states and 2 other participating states in designing and developing those assessments, it makes the testing more affordable for the states that are choosing to administer the Parcc assessment. In terms of what's different from Parcc compared to ISAT, from a student's point of view, they'll know the grade mark, the determination they'll get from that assessment is going to let them know if they're college or career ready or if they're on track to being college and career ready. That we'll have time and data as teachers so that we can make some instructional changes in that school year with the group of students whom we're teaching. Parents will also have very clear and timely information about how their students are performing, not only at the local level but across nationally. And states will now have valid results where we can compare how do students in Illinois doing compared to students in Kentucky or Pennsylvania if they decide to implement the Parcc assessments. So this is just a quick summary of the assessment scheme for Parcc. The 2 assessments on the end, performance-based assessment and end-of-the-year assessments, those are 2 required pieces that your child will have to take, not this school year, but next school year. And it's the combination of those 2 tests that will make give the score, the child's score. The performance-based assessment will occur about 75% through the school year, so sometime in March. It's performance-based, so it's also on the computer, but it's going to involve open-ended questions both in ELA and math. Where the end-of-the-year assessment will occur towards the very end of the year after 90% of instruction has occurred. It will be computer-based as well, but the questions will be more multiple choice, fill in the blank, although they've got some really nifty technology-based ways, drop-down boxes and matching, all kinds of cool ways of testing students, what their level of understanding is. So those 2 tests will be required, and those are the time fashions in which those will be given. The speaking and listening is also going to be a required component, but that has a flexible administration. The other 2 optional assessments that will be made available to schools in the state of Illinois are diagnostic assessments and mid-year assessments, which were kind of similar to the NWA MAP testing. So it's kind of that same premise behind those 2 tests, except they'll link directly to the Parcc assessment and help you guide your understanding of how kids are performing in terms of college, career ready, and being on track. So that's a little quick summary of Parcc, and that concludes our evening. And Ms. Stavro has a few concluding remarks that she would like to share.
So, the Board of Education, the faculty, the staff, the administration of Schiller Park District 81 is moving forward to make good on their promise to provide the best for your children. Education is synonymous to change, and with change comes great initiatives and progress, as you've witnessed here tonight. Superintendent Parcc has promoted heightened awareness to parent and community members of ongoing change in their children's education, including the Common Core standards, the standard-based grading, and the Parcc Assessment. Tonight's informational meeting is one of many examples of the transparency that has been characteristic of Dr. Borshevsky's tenure as superintendent of Schiller Park. Our goal here tonight was to explain the changes to the assessment reporting tool and the process by which this change took form. This process was not only thoughtful in execution, but a natural progression that is not only meaningful, but long in the planning. Non-educational factors were not significant in any way for the change that has been introduced here tonight. We're sure that you have questions, and we welcome your questions wholeheartedly. We ask that you complete the form, the handouts will be found on the table, and we will respond to the questions on the website. Also, with our teachers, we'll provide additional information during the parent-teacher conferences. It'll make it more meaningful when we're talking about your children. So, we'd like to thank you all for coming here tonight, and it's always good to see you.